Welcome to Creepy, the best horror storyteller on YouTube.
In a burst of panic and confusion, heart pounding like a drum solo in a rock concert, I stared down at the phone in my shaking hands. The message from my boss, asking why I had stood up Tracy, made no sense. Last night's memories were a whirlwind of fear, adrenaline, and now, a chilling realization that things had gone horribly wrong. Rewind to the beginning of the evening, and there I was, sitting in the restaurant, waiting for Tracy to show up for what was supposed to be a simple dinner. My boss had set us up, saying Tracy was a distant cousin of his who was new in town. Wanting to make a good impression, I agreed. But nothing could have prepared me for the evening that unfolded. Tracy, who staggered into the restaurant calling my name, was not the quiet dinner companion I had envisioned. Her loud entrance and subsequent fall into my lap had already set a tone of embarrassment and chaos. The promise of alcohol and a live lobster named Fred barely got us out of the restaurant without further incident. But the true nightmare began when Tracy veered into that dark alley, disappearing from sight only to be found conversing with shady figures. My unease grew as she dragged me into a bar, a place radiating danger and hostility from every corner. The patrons, with their menacing glares, seemed like a cast of characters from a horror story, each one more intimidating than the last. As Tracy, fueled by alcohol, sought to immerse us deeper into potential peril, I felt a sense of dread I couldn't shake off. Her reckless invitation to party with a group that looked as if they'd stepped out of a gangster movie was the last thing I wanted. Yet, there I was, following her into the lion's den, praying for a way out. The invitation from the gang's leader to continue the party at his place only escalated my fear. The ride in his van, with its boarded-up windows and the malicious laughter of our captors, felt like a descent into madness. When they tied me to a tree, leaving me helpless in the dark, my mind raced with thoughts of escape, of survival. But nothing could have prepared me for the horror that followed. Tracy, whom I had judged as merely drunk and reckless, revealed a terrifying aspect of her personality. The sight of the big guy's head rolling to a stop by my feet, followed by Tracy's bloody hands, was a scene straight out of a nightmare. Awakening to daylight, surrounded by the aftermath of the night's events, I was in shock. How had a simple dinner date turned into a scene of horror? The message from my boss, questioning my absence, added a surreal layer to the terror. Tracy, it seemed, had vanished into thin air, leaving me to grapple with the night's horrific events alone. In the days that followed, the police investigation turned up more questions than answers. The bar, the alley, and even the wooded area where I was tied up seemed untouched by the chaos of that night. No evidence of the carnage, no sign of Tracy or the gang that had abducted us. It was as if the night had been a figment of my imagination, a bad dream from which I couldn't awaken. But the nightmares continued, each night bringing vivid flashbacks of the terror. My boss, convinced I had concocted an elaborate story to cover up standing Tracy up, barely concealed his disappointment. Colleagues whispered behind my back, and I felt my sanity slipping away. Months passed, and life gradually returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the shadows of that night lingered. I moved away from the city, seeking solace in a quieter, simpler life. But the fear, the memories of Tracy and that horrific night, haunted me like a ghost that refused to be laid to rest. And then, one day, a letter arrived. No return address, just a single sentence written in a familiar hand. "Did you miss me?" The handwriting was unmistakably Tracy's. The terror of that night came crashing back, a reminder that some horrors, once unleashed, never truly disappear. They linger in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to re-enter your life and turn it into a nightmare once again. In that moment, I understood the true horror wasn't the events of that night. It was the realization that the past could reach out at any moment, dragging you back into the darkness. And as I stood there, holding the letter, I knew the nightmare was far from over. It had only just begun.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more similar horror stories.